Welcome back, everybody, to the Tailored Psyche show, where I bring on awesome people to talk about insights and perspectives on how to live a life that you actually enjoy, how to overcome personal and mental obstacles in order to achieve that type of life, and overall, how to just understand psychology and work through mental health, especially this year, where everybody's facing such different obstacles. It feels even more important to bring on really cool everyday people who can provide such helpful insights to help get us through all of this together. So today I have a dear friend on here. This is Madison Perkins. It's my guest today. And Madison is the owner, head coach, manager, boss of everything at Youre CrossFit here in Salt Lake City, CrossFit gym. And Madison and I met a couple of years ago when I actually just came out to visit Salt Lake City and hadn't even moved here yet. I dropped into the gym, chatted with him a little bit. And what was amazing about Madison is that even though I was coming to a class, there were other people, it was all CrossFit, all business. In the in-between spaces and afterwards, you could just tell how thoughtful and deep and sociable Madison wanted to be with you. It went extended beyond CrossFit, and to the point where after the class, I remember this, we were just like walking out to the parking lot, I think, and Madison and I were talking about mental health in like Native American populations and just like random communities around the world. So the depth with Madison goes really quickly. And so,
Yeah,
and he,
sure,
and he knows,
sure.
and he knows for sure that I do not tolerate surface level chit chat. So we are going to go deep, probably pretty fast, but welcome, Madison.
Hey, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited. I always
Yeah.
enjoy talking with you, and conversations are always, like you said, deep and well thought out. So I'm excited.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And I also appreciate all the comic book paraphernalia
Yeah, it's
around your
everywhere.
office.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got like Dragon Ball Z, comic books, cartoons, everything all throughout my office. So yeah,
I
it's
love it.
everywhere.
I love it. I'm sure that'll come up again.
Yeah.
The one sort of surface level question I have for you, just to get started, to both remind me, but also to kind of tell my listeners and viewers too.
Hmm.
You're from Oklahoma, and so what was your entrance into the CrossFit world that got you to then be owning and managing an entire gym yourself at this point?
Gotcha. Yeah. So, I mean, I love stories and I love talking and I love the kind of my life is went from one extreme to another to another to another. And currently, I co-own the gym with my wife Brittany and another gentleman named Tommy Hackenbrook. We're currently in the process of becoming full owners, me and my wife. That should be in the next month or two. That's been a process over the last 2 years, just to kind of set the stage for that. So, give you a little bit of background about me and myself is my whole life I've been in band. I've been music. My brother was the athlete. He was the guy that played baseball and he was super athletic. And I just never wanted to be like him. I wanted to go the other way. Personal reasons, just other things that like, I mean, we can dive into those. I don't mind. But I kind of wanted to go the opposite route. My I never had a dad growing up, so my mom always told me that my dad played music and was in a band and all this stuff. So I was like, well, that's kind of cool. I'll gravitate towards that. So I joined band and did that my whole life. Literally, I was in from sixth grade until I graduated college was music. So my degree is actually in music. I minored in business and I got 4 years into a 4 year degree and realized I didn't want to do music. So I was like, okay, cool, perfect timing. So what I ended up doing was I took a health class at like 3 years in and I loved it. I was like, this is cool. It's exciting, like to learn this stuff. So talked to the professor more or less. I was just like, hey, what can I do? So he's like, take this class. If you like it, pass it. It's our hardest one in the health department, then you'll do well. And I passed it with flying colors just because I enjoyed it. It was just like, it came natural. Like I enjoyed it. So I was like, maybe health, maybe this is the direction I want to go. After I graduated college, I was a server at Chili's for almost 3.5 years, talking to people. It's my favorite. um, so I met this gentleman and a couple of people that worked for him, and they all taught CrossFit at this gym there. And the gym was owned by the Native Americans, the Choctaw Nation. And I just kind of nerded out on him. I was like, "You guys do CrossFit? This is so awesome!" Because like in Oklahoma, there was no where I was in my town, there was no CrossFit gyms, so it was all new. No one knew about it. No one knew what was going on. I was the weird guy in the back of the room doing CrossFit, like walking on my hands, and while they're like, you got your bros doing bench press and curls, while I'm trying to learn cleans and teach myself how to do everything. And long story short, I ended up applying for a job out there as a front desk guy, and I ended up getting the job because I nerded out on him so hard. He was like, "You're the guy that like CrossFit." I was like, "Yeah." So he's like, "Cool, come out and do an interview." I literally interviewed in my gym shorts and a t-shirt. Like, it was super sporadic, but he hired me. I got certified in CrossFit within 2 months of working there. I shadowed for a long time. I taught for almost a little over 3 years there. We took a program that was around 15 women that met Tuesday, Thursday, and that was it at 6 p.m. To when I left, we had, I think it was 10 classes a day. And we had over 200 members, and they came 5 days a week. The crazy thing about my gym was that it was owned by the Native Americans. You had to be Native American or work for them in order to go there. So there was no membership. It was free. It was free to anybody that was that way. So, and our gym in small town Oklahoma was 30 minutes outside of town. So it's like about 15, 20 minutes outside of town. And if you're in that place, that's a long drive. It's like, I don't want to commute all the way out there. It's like everything's convenient. The town only had like 20,000 people, so it's tiny. So how do we grow a program where no one is financially, invested? So we ended up, like I said, growing that program, just creating an atmosphere where people wanted to be, people were excited about. Then I found Tommy Hackenbrook, the guy I own the gym with my wife. He is a CrossFitter. I think 7 times games athlete is what he's done. And I was a big fan of his, followed him on Instagram. He posted he needed a gym manager for one of his spaces. And my wife, Brittany, was like, "Give it a shot, see what happens." So I emailed him, not even expecting a response. Like 2 months, or it was like a month later, he responded back, "Hey, I know I need something, but I don't know what." And he's like, "I'll stay in contact." I was like, "Cool." This was like October, November-ish. He was basically like, "Hey, can you come out for an interview?" I was like, "Sure." And he was like, I said, "When?" And he was like, "How about December?" I was like, "Yeah, it'll happen." I had no money. So I was like, "Yeah, whatever." So I ended up, working extra, saving up for the next month, bought me and my wife a plane ticket. We landed Friday morning. I crash coursed an interview. Basically, he was like, "Go coach this class." And it was all like him, 3 of his employees, which were games athletes, people I followed, were all watching me coach this class. So I was like, "Oh, here we go." So I basically just had to like wing it, and like, like me, I can go with the flow pretty well. Then it was, I believe 4 or 5 months later, he called me. He was like, "Can you come out in 2 weeks?" I was like, "Oh, wow." Changing my entire life, changing everything. I ended up finding out like months later that he interviewed, I think it was close to 30 people for the job, and asked me to come out. So I was pretty surprised, pretty shocked, pretty happy. I ended up coming out here. My wife was a school teacher, so she stayed she was teaching summer school, so she stayed for the extra 2 months. So I literally moved out here with a bag full of like a week's worth of clothes, and I knew no one. I stayed in, at the time, they were random people. I stayed in their basement. They had a full basement, kitchen, everything. Stayed in there for the first 2.5 months without my wife, 20 hours away from home, doing something that I never thought I would do, manage a place. I'd never had a management role in my life, so it was all brand new. So it was terrifying, to say the least. But that's pretty much it in a nutshell, kind of a fast forward, quick little condense. That's how I ended up out here. And then the ownership side of thing was 2 years ago. He's been stepping out of the role of running the gym, and asked if me and my wife wanted to purchase the gym from him. So we've been in that process for the last 2 years.
Nice. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like
a whole lot to unpack there.
Yeah, exactly. We got time. We got like 6 hours for this episode. Yeah. It's fine.
Let's do
it. What's cool about that though is that Brittany told you like, "Hey, why not? Why don't you just go try that thing?"
Right.
Even though it was so terrifying for you.
Yeah.
And something that you had no experience in, nothing that you would have even thought about doing at that time.
Yeah.
And so, how, first of all, like when you started that management position, other than being terrified, how did you deal with that? Like, how did you feel and suddenly being like, oh, okay, cool, I'm in this leadership position now?
Pretty much my whole life, even still to this day, I've considered myself a jack of all trades, master of none. I'm really good at like going with the flow and understanding things, and just like I have a I have a general want to learn, yearning to just really want to learn. And so when I stepped into the position, I had been the job that I had worked back home whenever I was coaching. I was just your random front desk guy. I went to pretty much, I won't call myself the head coach just because I had some really good coaches I worked with. But I felt like a lot of people kind of looked up to me in the sense of like coaching wise at that position. I felt like I grew into something pretty big at my old gym. So stepping into, hey, grow this gym, run this gym as a coach, I felt like I had that down. I was like, that's nothing. Cool. I'll just keep doing as I'm doing. But as the manager side of things, Tommy more or less was like, hey, I'll try to help you as much as I can. But he kind of threw me in head first, you know. I kind of had to learn to deal with things. I'd reach out to him when I had questions, but the managing side of things, that took some doing just because I'm not used to managing people. If you know, something comes up like, hey, can't do that, you know, or hey, you're fired, you know, it's like those things are like huge. And for me, I feel like I'm pretty good at just kind of like fitting the mold of whatever I kind of get pushed into. So I think it's just like who I am as a person is I naturally kind of fall into those positions.
Got it. That makes sense. So it's kind of your natural intrinsic interest in learning.
Right. And then, so like whenever I waited tables at Chili's, I remember it was probably like 2 years in, a year and a half in. I remember someone was like, hey, you need to like, because I'm a kid, you know, at heart, the comic books, you know,
Oh
so
yeah.
I play around a lot. I joke around. You've taken my class. You see how I am. Like I'm try to be the jokester in high school. I was class clown. You know, I'm just a goofy dude. So I don't really take things too serious. So, um, I remember having a talk with my manager. He's like, look, I know that you don't have like a management role right now. He's like, but people look up to you and they kind of follow your lead. So I think maybe I just have like a natural charismatic like way of leading people without being like, hey, you listen to me, I'm your leader. So I think I just kind of naturally fall into something like that. And by all means, like if someone else wants to run the ship, please. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to be that person. There's a reason why this is my first management job at 30. You know, I'm 33 now, and I've been doing this now for 4 years. So for the first 29 years, I was not about that life. So there's a reason for it. But I think
Yeah.
that's mainly why.
Well, I like that. I'm glad that you brought up your kind of like natural charisma and just like how that becomes kind of this leadership role
Mm-hmm.
that people look up to. So
Yeah.
we're going to come back to that. But a question I have is, because like going back to what you said about your health class that
Mm-hmm.
you totally excelled because you loved it,
Mm-hmm.
that's totally a template for career success that like you see in so many career books or workshops or webinars or what have you, where
Right.
like if you love what you're doing, it's no longer difficult.
Right.
But for you, you didn't know that you were going to love management,
Yeah.
or you were, and you don't even necessarily love it because you're saying like you can just give it away, but like,
Yeah.
but you didn't know that you would actually enjoy
Yeah.
any facet of it. You just kind of fell into it.
Right.
And so how how did you develop in the midst of that terror? How did you develop that sense of like, all right, I'm just gonna do this. I don't know if I'm gonna like it, but is that just that learning interest again?
Honest to God, I have no idea. So I don't know where it came from. I don't know why it's natural for me. Like I'm terrified when I try new things. Like I'm legit terrified. Like I hate being bad at things. I hate it. Like, and that's a conversation I want to go down the road with you today at some point. But like I
Well,
legitimately,
you're like a competitive athlete or something.
yeah, yeah. I wouldn't go the athlete route, but competitive, yes. but
Perfect.
but I don't know. Like I remember. So I don't know what it is, to be honest. I've always been able to just kind of like step into a scenario and go. Like whenever I tried out for band and to get a scholarship in college, I was talking about this the other day, and it was something I completely forgot about until the other day. Whenever I tried out for college, I had to do a snare drum piece. I had to play a little piece to show them how good I was, you know, for them to give me a scholarship or not. And one of the requirements was I had to bring my own snare drum. And I owned a drum set that my mom growing up, she was like, do you want a car or drum set? I said, drum set. So I picked that when I was 16. So I had a drum set. So I had a snare drum on my drum set, which if you don't know, drum sets, everything, you're sitting in a chair, everything's low. When you play snare drum in like a concert band or something, you're standing, so it's about waist height. The snare drum doesn't go that high. So I brought that snare drum, so it's about mid-thigh to knee height for me. So I was like bent way over, playing. And I remember my professor, he was like, "Hey, do you want to just borrow one of ours since that one?" And I was like, "Hey, it's all I had." And I remember when I went in for this interview or this tryout, I was terrified. I was so nervous. But I was like, look, you're either going to get it or you're not. There's no in between. If you go in and you don't get it, that's not the end of your life. It doesn't matter. Like failure, my mom has always told me, go try it. If you genuinely don't like it, stop. My whole life. If I was taking a class and I started failing it, she's like, are you enjoying it or not? Yes or no? No, I'm not. Okay, you're fine. Fail it, move on. So I don't know what it is. I think it's just kind of like drilled in my head that through my mom that she was always like, go try. If you fail, it's not the end of the world. It's not the end of you. It doesn't matter. Give it a shot, go. And I've just always kind of had that feeling. So anytime I would kind of get close to failing something, I would call my mom and she'd be like, and she kind of helped me reassess. So I think kind of growing up with that mindset, anytime I stepped into a scenario, stepped into a space where I was kind of lost or felt like I might fail, I would just remember that. And I think that that's what helped me because whenever I was in college, I remember these girls were like, hey, you want to try out for cheerleading? And I was like, I've never done it. Sure. I'm really loud. Let's give it a shot. And I love gymnastics in the sense of like flipping and stuff. The idea of it, I'd never done it. So I spent 6 weeks going 3 times a week to learn flipping on my own dime, on my own time. And I was like, this is cool. I want to learn this. And I tried out for cheerleading and I actually didn't make it. Didn't make it. And one of the judges was like, look what he learned in 6 weeks. If you give him another 6 weeks, look where he's going to be. And this guy put a lot of faith into me and talked the head coach or the coach of the cheerleading squad into letting me join. And so I was like, wow. So I actually didn't make it. And then 2 weeks later, I got a call, was like, hey, we're going to go ahead and let you join since you've put in so much work and came this far. Like you've got a long ways to go. To try. So, and I can go kind of down that route of how I went to learning more, but it's just, I don't know. I've always felt like if I fail, I fail. If I don't, I don't. But at least giving it the good old try is the least I could do.
Yeah. That's fascinating because that's such a perfect paradigm for how you should face failure. That's exactly like the way that your mom phrased it to you and the way that you adopted it is exactly the ideal definition of it. Cause it's like, if you fail, okay, fine, try something else. And now that we just overcame some technical issues, what I was saying was from your mom, it's such an amazing message about failure because if you fail at something, it's okay. There are billions and things that other things that you can be doing. Right. And you can try. And so this is something that I actually face a lot in my work, not so much on my own anymore, but like a lot of people that I talk with, they put so much stock in the thing that they're trying or the job that they're interviewing for, either because they've put pressure on themselves to have that perfect job, like the right job, or other people are putting pressure on themselves to do it. Where it's like you had the total opposite, where it's like, do what you want to do, try that, do whatever.
Right. Like don't get me wrong. I still put a ton of pressure on myself on being good at whatever I'm trying. And I think that's where that competitiveness comes in. Like, it doesn't matter like what it is. If it's like, we're going to go for a hike and it's like, it's supposed to be something casual. And I'm like the person in front, like, and they're like, slow down. I have to like check myself, like I still put a lot of stock in whatever I do, but I think that a lot of people put value on their performances in the sense of like, if I fail, people will think that I'm a failure. People will think less of me. So they end up, like you said, like they end up putting so much stock into what they're doing and not failing at what they're doing. And it's like, if I fail at this, I have nothing left in my life. And I've been there. Like I've had those thoughts, but at the end of the day, you gotta, like, for me personally, I just remember like, it's okay. Like this may end tomorrow. I just have to roll with the punches. But yeah, I agree. And being in the CrossFit world, I typically work with a lot of people in the I won't even say CrossFit world, in the personal training / just training people. You tend to deal with a lot of people's problems inside and outside the gym space. So I totally get. I've heard people say these things before.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so hypothetically, like what if everything shut down or failed tomorrow? Everything stopped and
So
you're no longer running a gym. Like
to
how
be
would you
completely
react to
honest,
that?
I'd move back home to Oklahoma because I moved 20 hours away to run a gym to come here and run a space. So I would move back home to and do the same thing that I was doing, just kind of fall back on what I was doing, um, or try to at least go home. But on the other side of it, it's like if I couldn't run a gym anymore, like I'm not above going to waiting tables again. I was a cook at a casino for years. I was also a cook in high school for a fast food restaurant called Brahms. I was at a cook at Sonic. I've done everything, you know what I like. And so for me, if this were to fail and like all gyms have to close forever, I mean, it'll suck. I'd rather do what I'm doing, but I'm not opposed to going back to until I can figure it out, because I know that there's other jobs that I can do to fall on, like waiting tables. Like I'm not above going and working at McDonald's. I don't care. You know what I mean? Like that's not my optimal job. That's not what I want. I worked at Walmart for like 8 months because I needed something quick and I got hired on. You know, I was a shelving stalker. Like I just redid the shelves and it sucked. I hated it. I had to move huge things of water. Like I hated it, but I did it. Did it like my mom said. I tried it, did it for 8 months, didn't like it, found another job. But if this were to completely fail here, to be honest, me and my wife would move back home, because I moved out here and I took a risk, and I'm 20 hours away from my mom. I'm 20 hours away from all my family, from Brit's, from her family. So like I would move back home and I would just try my luck there to see if I could do what I'm doing here there. But
Got it. Yeah. So it's just another example of your flexibility.
yeah,
Just being like,
exactly.
all right, well, let's
Yep.
just see what to do now.
Right. Because getting worked up over, I think too many people get worked up over like, this is the end. This is what I am. This is who I am. This is when people see me and they see me as a CrossFit coach, I honestly try to change the subject. I'm like, oh, I've thought about, you know, and I'm like, I don't care. Like, let's just change the subject. Cause like, if you really want to talk about it, I'll talk, but I'm not
Mhm.
trying to talk to you about cause this doesn't define me. Being a CrossFit coach does not define who I am.
Uh-huh. I love that you just said that because this idea of identity and like identifying with your job title or your role
Right.
is like one of the absolute worst traps you could possibly fall into.
I
Because
100% agree.
if you lose that job, or even if it's like you are in total control and you're a control freak and you have your own business, the business could go under too.
Yep.
And like what happens when you lose that job? You lose that identity.
Yep.
And
Depression, all those bad things.
exactly. You lose
Yeah.
total sight of yourself.
Yeah.
And so it's even more valuable that we're talking about this because you're a perfect example of someone who's not identifying or overly attaching to
Right.
the job or the place. Because you can just be like, all right, well, yeah, I'll just up and move.
Yeah. And I think there's pros and cons to that. Like something that I was literally been in my head since I left the gym working out. We did a workout and then I got beat in it by Nate Herkimer. He's way good. I really like the guy, but he beat me in a workout, and like anytime I lose workouts or I lose things, and I know a lot of people and okay, let me preface this. It's just a workout. You know what I mean? Like I truly understand that and I truly grasp that. Like I really do. But whenever you are giving your all into something and you fall short, it's really hard to swallow that. It really is. And I struggle with that every day. Um, and I have a reason for bringing all this up. I ask myself this: what is the difference between your everyday person and the top 1%? And I constantly ask myself this. And I mean this in all facets of life. Like what the top 1% business owners, the top 1% people in relationships, the top 1% of people with wealth, the top 1% of athletes. Like, I mean, in every way, shape, or form, 1%. What separates you from that? And I ask myself that all the time. And I'm wondering if, because like you just said, how I tend to kind of go with the flow and like, whatever, like I'm not like a push, like, whatever, just move on to the next thing. Like I legitimately want to be the best at everything that I do. And I'm curious if because of that little in the back of my head, if I fail, it's whatever, is what makes me not be able to be in that top 1% at whatever. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I like the fact that I can roll with the punches, and I like the fact that I'm flexible on all things. But I think that it also does me a disservice in the fact that I'm not the top 1% in the things that I do, if that makes sense.
I see. Yeah. Yeah. So in that sense, do you feel like you're holding yourself back from being in the 1%?
I won't say holding myself back. I'll say just because it's not conscious. Like I don't consciously think, yeah, you're whatever. Just go. Just if you fail, you fail. I don't consciously think that. Just like I lost the workout and I'm still thinking about it. This has been 2 hours, and I'm still thinking about it. Like, did I try my hardest? Did I really, so I don't consciously think about that. And I'm just curious if that's why some people just kind of float by, is because they're okay with the failure in a sense of like, that happens, whatever. I'm not going to push myself. They beat me because, whatever, it's in any way, like they have more money than me because XYZ, and it's not my fault. It's real easy to kind of like to fall onto that whenever you're trying to succeed in whatever you're doing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I could play devil's advocate on myself.
Sure. And this is funny because in a workout last week, I was chatting with a girl and she was like, hey, let's beat Madison's time in this workout. He would be so pissed.
Yes.
And, yeah, exactly. I was like, I don't really want to piss him off this afternoon.
No, yeah, right. Yeah. You're doing a million burpees. No, it doesn't make me mad. I will say I was having a talk with a guy at the gym the other day about kind of this subject. One of the things he brought up was like he hates losing, and if it's something that he is not good at, then he'll either sandbag it or just not do it or completely quit. And he's like, it's because of my ego. He's like, I have such an ego with losing. And I was talking about how when someone passes you in a workout, like, what do you do? Like, what do you do as a person? Do you look at that as a challenge and you try to push yourself? Do someone passes you and you're like, I can't catch them. They're ahead of me, whatever. And I look at that as life. Like if someone passes me in something that I am not good at, in my mind, I'm like, oh, you can achieve that. They just did. This is possible. So that's how I look at it. And I try to push myself to catch them because I'm like, if I can catch them, that means that I'm progressing in something that I'm bad at. And this is something they're good at. And I look at that in life. You know what I mean? Like if someone has more money than me, I don't look at it as like, oh, must be nice or anything like that. I actually have a shirt that it says must be nice because of that. Because of that saying. But anyway, like, so I kind of look at that. So if you and the girl beat my time, I'd be like, okay, why? How can I improve? You know what I mean? Like, like, don't get me wrong. I'll be a little salty on the inside for losing. But I also look at it on the other side of it too, of like, let's try to improve. What did they do better than you for them to beat you? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Because it sounds like what you're talking about is not so much an ego trip at all. It's purely this recognition of like, oh, cool, I can do more. I can do better. I can progress. Right. Because it's very clear that the reason why you got this job and the reason why you've stuck with this job is because of your interest in learning and progressing.
I love learning. Love it.
Yeah.
I've had this thought, and I thought about doing a podcast of like myself just recording and talking. And one of the subjects I wanted to talk about was ego, because ego gets such a negative, like no one likes people that have egos, like, oh, that guy's egotistical, or she's got such a huge ego. Like, I hate being around her during X. But I do believe that the ego is a good driving force. If you utilize it in a good, healthy manner, your ego can help drive you so far, because you will not let yourself do less than what you think you're capable of. That your ego is what is driving you, but you can't let your ego turn to something negative to make you turn into a negative person, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it does. I love that.
and I've had this thought for a long time, that because people are like, leave your ego at the door. That's a big CrossFit thing, you know, and it's true. You need to leave your ego at the door. But what I look at it as is, you need to leave your ego at the door in order to learn. If you cannot drop your ego enough for me to teach you, then you will never progress.
Mm-hmm.
But if you drop your ego completely, you now you're just kind of like just floating in the wind, just kind of going. And it's like, no, you need to have like your blinders on, look forward. I'm ready to learn, teach me, but I'm going to drop my ego enough to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'm going to use my ego because I want to be the best and I want to do the best, or I want to be the best that I can be. And I'm going to keep those standards of myself high. And it's your ego that is keeping those standards in play. I don't know. That's just kind of what I've had a thought for the ego thing. And I feel like I kind of play this good back and forth of that ego. I want to be the best. I want to try my best, but I'm not going to let it get in the way to make it where it's like you said, like, let's not beat him. I don't want to piss him off. Like, I'm not like, I'm going to be like, oh, you got me, you know, like on the inside of my mother, you know, like super mad, but I'm going to drop it enough to make it to where we can still be friends. Like you just taught me how to be better. Cool.
Right.
You know, let's learn. Let's raise my standards that much higher, so that my ego is pushing me to keep my standards there and not just be like, wow, whatever. But anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds as though it's the ego. You need enough ego to hold those goals and standards and have ambition and have some direction and purpose without that ego becoming arrogance.
Yes.
The level of like, oh, I'm so awesome for having these goals and standards. Look how great I just did on this workout.
Mm-hmm.
You just want, it's like the step below that, where you have those goals and standards, but you're progressing.
And ego might not even be the right word for that. You know what I mean? There might be another word that I haven't figured out or you know, placed into as in such of ego. So maybe if you come up with something, you know, it might change my mind, or at least change my way of thinking towards that.
Sure. I mean, it sounds like ego works, so let's keep it.
Yeah. Okay.
But when you write your book on this topic, you can just make up a word for it.
Okay. I like that.
But along these lines, I mean, this is a great segue, because something you brought up earlier that was on my list to make sure that I asked you about is when you were mentioning that you don't take life too seriously. And that comes through in your ability to be a role model and to connect with your members and connect with people and chat about whatever. And you don't want to chat about surface things. You don't want to chat about being a CrossFitter. You want to chat about people's lives. Like, you want to chat about Spider-Man, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And so this is great, because we're talking about ego and the fact that your ego is not to the point of being this super arrogant, intense CrossFit coach who needs to be the best in the gym or nothing. And something that has always struck me, and I'll provide a little context for our listeners, is that about you and your gym is that I've been a part of many gyms at this point. I've led programs in gyms. I've been a member at many gyms. I've dropped into a ton of gyms, and they're all run so totally differently. Yep. Some people have management experience. Some people are very business minded. Some people are just coaches who happen to become managers, whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. Some are really strict in terms of how things are instructed. Some are extremely lackadaisical. Yeah. And your gym is somewhere in between. And I'm not saying that as a bad thing by any means, but what's really obvious and becomes really obvious about your culture that you've created, whether it's an intentional or unintentional, is that everybody feels like, or it seems like, they've been there for years and they're like best friends with you. But the amazing thing is that you're not just buddy with them. You still hold the line. Like, you still whip them into gear. You still kick their asses in the workout and tell them what they're doing wrong, tell them what to fix. So you're still running this business and they're still answering to you. They're still like you're still providing a service. Yeah. But you're also able to still show that part of you that doesn't take life too seriously. Yeah. So for you, do you think intentionally about this culture that you are creating, or this sense of community that you're creating? Because I know you love connecting with people. Right. Or is it just kind of just naturally how?
To be honest, I think it's 100% natural. Like I finished the workout. Like I did a couple workouts, and I was working out with our coach Zach, and I freaking love Zach. He's such a cool dude. He's so level headed. He's young, but he like I don't know. Anyway, I told him, and we had a few people walk in the gym, and they're just like this little group of people talking, and I was like, man, I love our gym. And he goes, it's all because of you and Brett. And I've heard that so many times, and I don't know. I don't know. Like I don't see it. I don't try. I see it, but I don't try. So I think it becomes more natural. Like I think that I've just worked in enough spaces and in different jobs in different ways, and I've been around enough people like high level, low level, like however you would see it, that I've just been able to pick and choose what I like from each person. Like I've worked with those people that are like, by the book, this is how we do it. Like you have to be on time. And if you're not, you know, it's like, oh, okay, cool, whatever. And I've worked also on the other side where people are super laxed, where it's like nothing gets done, you know, everybody. And I feel like I've worked with enough of those people that I've been able to see the pros and cons of it. Like the pros of working with someone that is so structured and everything is so structured that things get done. They're done on time. Everybody knows what to expect when they walk into the door. They know we're going to be doing this at this time, this at this time. This is what this is happening. Whatever the job is. Like when I was a cook, I was a blackjack dealer. I was a maintenance guy at a health and rehab center for like burn victims. I've done all the jobs. Like I've done everything. And I've just felt like I've learned to kind of balance all of it to make it to where, like you said, when people walk in, they feel comfortable. Like that's the biggest thing. And also when I look at each person, I look at you, Taylor, who are you as a person? I want to know that, because now I know how to coach you. Now I know how you tick. Now I know what's going through your mind whenever you're in the middle of this workout. And that's why I think I've gravitated so hard to CrossFit, is because it's different. I've personal trained people through bodybuilding. I've personal trained people through Olympic weightlifting. I've personal trained people through CrossFit. I've obviously taught CrossFit, the classes. I love to see how people tick. Like what's your thing that is you that makes you so separate? Like I said earlier, who are you as a person when you're 12 minutes in this workout and you're dying and someone passes you? Who are you? What kind of person are you? How can I get you to like, you know, go and push? And I love that aspect of it. And the kind of welcoming people thing is like, Britt used to joke whenever we're back home. So Southern hospitality is a real thing, and everybody says it. And I truly miss it the most from back home, other than my family and friends. I miss the Southern hospitality. The moment you walk in, hey, how you doing? Come on in, get you a seat. I'll be with you in a moment. You know, I'm going to talk to you like you're a person rather than being like you're a customer, you're a client. Hey, you're a dollar bill. You're paying my bills. No, I don't want to look at you that way. I want to look at you as your Taylor. How can I keep you for the next rest of my life as a friend / client? Because that's what I want. And I want to truly help you grow as a person, not just athletically, not just physically. I want to help you grow as a person, because once you grow as a person, everything else just falls into place. Once you start feeling more confident in yourself because you've lost 10 pounds. Like I've seen people like, I went out to the bars and these girls were talking to me and I'm like, yeah, okay. Now you're starting to get a little more confident. This is good. And I've seen people who are quiet and like, they're super like, I'm not going to talk to anybody. I've seen them come out of their shell, and I don't know. And I think that's just my personality, is like, I want to know each person. So my old job back home, so the Choctaw Nation is their own sovereign nation. So they are literally their own government. They have their own police. They have their own jails. They have everything. So we used to have the chief of the Choctaw Nation. His name's Gary Batten. He used to come and take CrossFit. To give you an idea, that's like the president of the United States coming to your class. Regardless of who the president is, that's who he is. He's coming in, or she, and they're taking your class. So they're your boss, right? They can fire everyone down to you, and it's okay because they're the top person. He used to come into my class, and I'd be like, hey, Gary, what's up? You know, and I would give him crap. Be like, get on the floor. Come on, let's go. And I used to push him, and people were like, it's Gary, right? And I'm like, yeah, I don't care. He's a person. Take away all of his titles. He's like me and you. He puts his pants on one leg at a time, just like me and you. And like the best relationships I've had with people were the people that I've treated like that. Like I had the guy, his name is Michael. He married me and Britt. He owned a place in Costa Rica that we got to go stay for free because I got to know him for 2 years. Come to find out, dude's a millionaire. Had no idea. He's in his 70s. Had no clue. I didn't, because I didn't care. I didn't ask that. Like, what do you do for work? And, I'd ask him that, and he's like, I'm retired. I was like, cool. Well, and he'd tell me about his son. I'm like, what's he up to? What's your kid doing? What's Scott doing? How's him and his wife? And it's just, I just got to know him as a person, and then it turned into, hey, I have a place. Hey, I have this. Or I'm like, well, cool. I don't care. Let's go. Let's go chat. Let's go get some dinner. Let's go grab some lunch. Like, I don't know. I've always been infatuated with people and learning. Like I said, growing up, I only had my mom, and she worked her ass off. She worked 2 jobs, 3 jobs to raise me, my brother, and my sister, who's 16 years older than me. So when I was 2, she was 18. She was out of the house, right? So it was just us 4. And then I had my grandparents, but they were off doing their own thing, running their own business, all that stuff. So like, I never really had like one role model that I can be like, yeah, that person changed my life. I've had multiple, and I always try to figure out who they were, and I have no idea why, to be honest. Like, as a kid, I would always be like, hey, what do you do? What do you do outside of here? And I would just be like 6 years old, just bugging people. I remember growing up, the cable guy would come over to fix our cable, and I would just sit there and watch him. I'd be like, hey, is it cool if I just follow you around? He's like, sure. So I'd watch him and learn, like, how does the cable work? Where does it come in? What are the phone lines? Why are all these wires? What do they do? And I'm sure that probably annoyed the crap out of him. But I've just always been like, as a kid and growing up, just always wondered how other people tick. So when someone walks into my door, I'm like, hey, what's up? How are you? Like, you got kids? What do you do for work? What brings you out to Salt Lake City? Welcome to my gym. Hey, that's Jim. He works at, whatever. He does this. And it's just because I find people fascinating. Like, I find people fascinating in how they tick. Like, what brought you into my door? Like, what made you pull into my parking lot and come into my gym? Because it's like, I want to know, who are you? So I think just kind of having that general curiosity towards people has helped me get to know people. And that's why people feel like they've been there for years. So like, hey, this is so-and-so, this is what they do, and this is why they're in there. And everybody at our gym always goes, hey, Taylor, because I always say that, because that just makes me think of AA. Like, hi, I'm Madison. Hi, Madison. It's because like, you just laugh. Like, it just makes people laugh, and like, oh, that's kind of funny. But I don't know. I love people, and I didn't have a big family growing up, so I've always felt like everybody was my family. And the CrossFit community, I felt like I've had more people do things that a family should do for you in CrossFit than I actually had my real family. And that has nothing to do against my mom, my sister, my brother, because they've always been there. Like, my mom was my rock growing up. She was the person I looked up to the most. She was the person that I learned the most from. My sister, in later years, we've become so close. Like, I look up to my sister so much. She's just such an amazing person to me. And my brother, we've just always butted heads. We're too close of an age, I think. We get along. I talk to him. Hey, what are you up to? Cool. How's your kids? Awesome. Cool. See you later. We're just 2 guys. That's how we talk. But like, I've just always felt like I've had a good family in my CrossFit community. So anytime anybody comes in, that's how I want to treat you. I want to treat you like you're my cousin I've never met before. What have you been up to? Like, I don't know. Like, you got any hobbies that I, might enjoy, or like you're passionate about, so I think that that's always been the reason why I've been able to create the community, because it has not been on purpose. Like, I don't do it like, this is the community I want to build. And like you said, we kind of married a little bit of both, because I feel like people take life too serious. I don't know, I'm kind of on a tangent and rambling and stuff. I get it.
By
but
all means.
yeah,
this is all relevant.
I'll try to stay on subject.
No, this is helpful for sure.
Yeah, but like, I don't know, like you said, you've dropped into gyms, you've been in scenarios where people take things serious. And I remember whenever I first moved here and I took over, I started all my classes 5 minutes late. And I had so many coaches that are like, well, I came from a coach that was ran by someone who's in the military, and they were all, and I was like, cool, go back to that gym. That's not how we do it here. Like, if you getting caught in traffic, or your baby shits their pants, or, it's like you got a phone call you weren't expecting and you show up 3 minutes late, and I say, all right, give me 100 burpees. It's like, screw you, buddy. Like, I'm paying to be here. And like I said, my old gym, they didn't pay to be there, so they just wouldn't go. So we had to learn how to get people excited and wanting to be there no matter what. People show up, I'm so sorry for being late. I'm like, I don't care. Get on a bike, warm up, jump in, let's have fun. Yeah. Because but like you said, when it's time to bring it down to brass tacks, what are you here for? Are you here for communication or here for talking? Is it your hour to kind of decompress, talk to someone? You lifted some weights, you got a little sweaty, cool, whatever. See you tomorrow. Cool. That's what you want out of this hour. But I'm going to try to make you a smidge better. I'm going to try to push you, like I said, because there's a reason you're here. You're not literally showing up for social hour. If that was the case, you would get a coffee group and go drink coffee every morning, go walk at the park. You would find that group. But you're here for a reason. So I'm going to make sure that I try to motivate you in whatever way that works for you. Like if you like to be screamed at and cussed at and yelled at, by all means, I'll do it gladly. But if you're someone that needs me to cry with you and I'll do burpees with you, and I feel that emotional attachment, and this is why, I'll do that too. Because I literally have. I've done all of the above. I had a guy that was in the military, and I remember his name was Derek Little. I always called him Derek. And I remember it was one workout. I was like, "What are you doing, Little? Let's go. I want to hear you count all these." And he was like, "Yes, sir. Sorry, yes, sir." And he like crushed his mile run. And he was like, "Thank you. I have not felt that in years." And then I had a lady that was 72. Her name was Carol. She was one of my favorite clients. I taught her how to do burpees, and I taught her how to not use her walker. And I would just get in the floor and be like, "Carol, we can do this. Let's get up. Come on, we can do this." And this is, so it's like, I just treat each person as a person. You're not a mold. You're not this mold coming in, and I'm going to treat you that way. I want to treat you as a person. And so I kind of treat each class as that. Like I joke, I have fun. But when it kind of comes down to like, let's work, if you talk to me during my workout, you will know that I do not like it.
Yeah.
Because I'm here to work, and I don't want you talking to me. I can't talk and do my best. So that's me. Leave me alone. Yell at me all you want, but don't try to have a casual conversation. But I have clients that love to have casual conversations mid-workout, so I will. You know what I mean? So I think it's just a mixture of all of what I just said.
Sure. But yeah. And like that wasn't even that much of a tangent, because really what you're talking about are different examples of the same thing. You're just treating everybody like they're a unique person.
Yeah, because we all are.
Yeah. And I feel like, I mean, that sounds like it was bred from your just like your openness and your flexibility toward life and failure and trying things anyways, just because you have to be open,
right?
Like making yourself open. And boy, like that is such a relevant lesson right now.
Yeah,
because so much of why 2020 has been so shitty, other than the fact that there's a pandemic, is the fact that there's so much lacking of what you just talked about.
I agree 100%.
There's so much lacking of treating every person you run into like their unique individual. And you and I are very similar. We just want to get to know the person. We want to get to know like why they are the way they are.
Yes.
Want to get right down deep.
Yes.
Because we know that they are unique, and you and I have this curiosity for it.
Right. Yep. Yeah. And I want each person to feel welcome and comfortable, no matter what. If you're coming to my house, if we're going to go eat somewhere, if you're coming to my gym, I don't care. I would say that I am not your typical person in the sense that I'm a straight white male. I'm not your typical person that would be accepting of everybody in most people's eyes. And I'm accepting of everybody. I don't care who you are, what you do. I love you as a person. As soon as you treat me wrong or do something to me negatively, then I will treat you differently. But until then, I'm going to treat you as if you're my brother, as if you're my sister, as if you're that person that my dog wants me to be. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like, so my dogs are next to me. It made me think of that. But
that's perfect.
But right. That's how I treat as many people that I talk to and see as I can.
Yeah. I love that. And of course, now I'm just like forgetting.
No worries. That's the only bad thing about how much I talk is I tend to cover a lot of subjects.
I know. Well, that's the beautiful thing, because there's so many things I want to respond to.
Yeah. And cut me off, please. If I'm in the middle of something, cut me off, because I can keep things going. I promise.
No, I'll just edit you out.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And at this point, I wanted to talk about this, but he would not shut up.
Yeah, I'll do a voiceover for you.
Yeah.
Well, I love that you brought up Southern hospitality, because even though that's like its own little kitschy term,
right?
And it can be trendy and people can make jokes about it, it's a real thing. And like hospitality is something that's so lost these
Yeah.
days. Just like
100% agree.
the classic lost art of basic etiquette
Yep.
and courtesy.
Yep.
And I'm willing to bet that you and I have that similar curiosity because my mom was from South Carolina and
She did.
I was very explicitly taught Southern hospitality. And
Yeah.
like, these are the rules of etiquette,
Yep.
kind of thing. And I watched her all the time modeling for me how to ask total strangers about their lives
Yep.
on the street. She would
Same.
find out everything about their life story immediately.
Yep.
I think to the point where at a very young age, myself and my siblings could talk to much, much older adults so much more comfortably
Yep.
and actually have like deeper, interesting conversations,
Yeah.
like legit conversations. So it's totally a real thing. Do you ever find though, you know, with people who are like overly courteous like that and overly curious and give too much of themselves, have you ever had to set boundaries with your customers or your clients? Like, have you ever gone too far where it's like,
Yeah.
they are then like, oh, I can talk to Madison all the time, anytime, and he's
Yeah.
going to listen to me.
Kind of give you an idea of where like I think my Southern hospitality kind of comes from. And I think it's super similar to you and your mom. My mom was a bartender. She on the side. So she did that as just a side job. So as a bartender, you create conversations. And I remember we'd go into the grocery store. My mom would talk to the cashier, and I'm like, Mom, shut up. You know, they don't really care, but it did teach me that people want to have conversations. They want to feel welcome. They want to feel like you said. The problem with running a business and having this like I want to be your friend mentality and those things is you do get people who tend to abuse that. And I don't think they mean anything by it, but I think some people see that and they do abuse it and they do mean something by it. It does create for a weird situation. Sometimes when I have to be like, hey, like you probably shouldn't do that. And they're like, oh, well, I thought since I knew you and we're good friends that it would be okay. And I'm like, no. That specific conversation doesn't come up as often as you would think. And I think the reason why is because I'm extremely honest. And when it comes to conversations, like Britt sometimes will like hit me because I'm like, I'll say things that's pretty rude to some people, but I'm not being rude to you, like trying to like be an asshole to you. I bring up awkward conversations pretty easily. Like, hey, like people are like paying, like I'll have some people at our gym like running through hard times. Instead of just being like, yeah, I'll hold your membership until you come back, I'll be like, look, let's work together. Let's see what we can do. Maybe like you clean for us like 2 or 3 times a week and we'll do like a different membership, or, cause I want to help. And I've had some people like kind of abuse that and be like, I'm like, look, you're now not doing this. You look like you're doing great in your life. Like, hey, so I'll bring those conversations up smoothly because I feel like I'm decent at having conversations with people, and I'm decent at being able to talk to people about uncomfortable things. Not all the time. Don't get me wrong. I still have awkward conversations with people where I'm like, ooh, like this is about to get weird. But I think like me and Brittany, we have talked about that recently. Like we've got to be a little more stern, a little more like not necessarily run a more professional gym, but like if you go into a gym where you don't know anybody and they don't treat you that way, they treat you as a client, you know the feeling. Like you're like, well, I can't get a discount. I can't get a deal. They're not going to let me come in here after hours. They're not going to let me take a piece of equipment home. Like, you know that vibe, you know that feeling. Mm-hmm. I want people to walk in and know that if they needed help, they could reach out to me. But on the other side, it's hard because sometimes we do get ran over, and it happens a lot just because we are very nice. I've been burned so many times by people, and it's just because some people just look out for that. They want to take advantage of you. They want to say, oh, you're going to give me this. Cool. Let me see what else I can get. It does happen often. So it is something that I have to work on as a business owner and as a coach, and someone in a professional setting. Like that's something that I need to work on personally, is being able to be like, hey, we're having a good time. Everything's great. Everybody's laughing. But hey, listen, you need to pay your membership if you're going to come in. Or, hey, you need to not do that. Or, hey, be respectful to this person because they're just as much of a person as you are. Like I personally, that's something that I need to work on. And I know that. So that is a flaw in the way I do run our business. But that's something I recognize and know that I need to work on. So yeah, we typically run into problems like that. And that happens in everyday life too,
Sure.
outside of the business.
Totally. And that's another parallel with me for sure, because in the mental health field, one of the most important first things I had to learn, especially because I was working with children, and children would love to take advantage of the situation so that they don't have to do their therapy work or something. They just want stuff from you. Right.
Right.
And so interestingly, in a therapy setting, I learned how to do that really quickly. And it's the same kind of thing, to have the awkward conversations, to call the person out and just be like, hey, I see you doing this right now.
Right.
You're saying these things and it's not going to fly, kind of thing. And like basically just calling it out or being awkward almost solves the problem, because the person's like, oh shoot, I'm caught.
Yeah.
I guess like, all right, fine. I guess I got to do this. You're right. I'm in Madison's gym. This is like, he has home court advantage kind of thing. It's his territory.
Right.
And same with me. Like if I was working in residential programs, like the kid would be like, oh, that's right, I'm outnumbered by staff. Taylor's logically making much more sense than I am. All right, I guess I'll just go eat dinner now. But in business, similar to what you're saying, in order to maintain business, that's something that I've had to work on a ton, to not be taken advantage of, or to not be walked over, or to have my kindness and my compassion and my curiosity and my connection with people, especially clients, not be taken advantage of. So it's fascinating to be like, the actual work that you and I do, which is really both of us do psych work, essentially.
In some way,
the psych work that you and I both do, we're very good at towing that line. But then it's like, for everything else, and for the business and for our career and for our relationships, that's where the real work needs to be put in.
And I think it probably comes from, like you said, building the personal relationship, because think about, like, what do they say? Like your parents or your brothers or sisters or siblings or family or something will typically have the harder conversations with you. Why is that? It's because they're family. They've set up enough of a relationship with you that when they do come to you from a hard stance, it's not from a bad place. So when you do have these conversations with people, you're like, look, I'm not out to like get you or like make things bad or like make you feel stupid or anything like that. It's just like, I just want the best for you and the best for me. And I want you to respect me as a person, just as I respect you. So I think I think that we can probably kind of tiptoe those because of the relationship you build with these people. Not saying that that's like with everybody in every situation, every scenario, but typically I feel like that's what it is for me. If I've built that relationship with someone, they would be like, I am so sorry. I didn't realize that, or or I should have talked to you or whatever. It's like, okay, cool. It's because we've built this relationship where, I'm not going to take it personally. You shouldn't take it personally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know who I was talking to about this just recently. It might've been a client, but yes, it was a client talking about relationships, like intimate romantic relationships. Like we were talking exactly about what you were just saying, as figurative money in the bank that you collect with somebody. That's actually always been a term in the mental health field that I've heard. But the more money that you have in the bank with an individual person in terms of your relationship, the more you know about them, the more conversations you've had, the more rapport you have, the more intimacy you may or may not know about the person, the easier it is for you to have those conversations. Because if they start to take advantage of you or try to be disrespectful, then you can just be like, where did this come from?
Right.
And basically like slap them in the face with it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a sibling would do. Just be like, why are you acting so weird?
Right. Yeah.
Well, but if it's like a brand new person, it's harder, because you then have to, like, a classic mental health thing is like, okay, cool, I just saw you say these things. I found it disrespectful, but like, what was happening for you?
Right.
Because then it's a longer conversation for you to then like teach them, okay, that's not really how we do things here.
Yeah. And it's interesting you kind of say it that way, like a brand new person to someone, like, hey, I kind of find that disrespectful. I feel like that's a lot of what's going on with like our country and society today is too many people are taking what you're saying currently as face value of who you are. Like, let's say you just got into a car wreck, you lost your job, and your girlfriend broke up with you. Cool. Someone steps on your toes. What the, it's like, oh, okay, well, this person's it's like, no, it's like, listen, you're taking it as face value. This is not who I am as a person. And if you get to know someone, you might find out that's who they are as a person. And then you know what? You typically don't let them people stay in your life. The problem is that we see too many things right now, and we want to call things out. We want to be the superhero that says, hey, you're being a dick. Stop. We want to be that person, not we as in us, but like as a society, too many people are real quick to be like, hey, you're an idiot. Ha, I said it first. And it's like, oh, okay, cool. Well, I'm not. I've just misunderstood, or I've just had like a really crappy day, or, whatever. So I've never heard that about like the money in the bank, kind of like building up the interest and like those kinds of things within a person or within a relationship. And I think the quicker you can kind of help someone realize who you are as a person, the quicker it is for them to like realize that where you're coming from is not a negative space. Where you're coming from is not a bad place. Maybe it's just ignorance. Maybe you've just never experienced or been around, and that's what can cause, this like friction or something like that. But yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. And my opinion about what you were just saying about how everybody's been acting in this last year and like taking things very personally, but mostly like that ego trip of hopping on to be the first to comment or the first to criticize.
Yeah.
The way I see it from the mental health field, I think it's kind of an offshoot of what you were sharing, that I've seen so many people on social media hop to immediately accuse someone else of saying something.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where they get their power trip.
Mm-hmm.
Because whatever's going on for them, obviously it's some kind of like covering of like whatever they're feeling, but like they hop to accuse someone else, where it's like you're not even expressing your own opinion, you're not even sharing how you feel, you're just like quickly feel better because you can just put this person in their place.
Yep.
And like there was someone on Instagram just the other day who just posed a question about the pandemic and the vaccine. Nothing implied about her opinion whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
But since you put it publicly, you're going to get crazy answers.
Yeah.
And several people like completely bashed her, assuming what her opinion was.
Right.
And she had just asked this very general question. It was like blatantly general.
Right. And I think it's just because so many people get, and I hate to use this word because I know it's kind of a buzzword right now, but triggered. Totally. It's because they've had conversations with, let's say they've had 10 conversations with people about that subject, and they see this post and they're like, oh, they're trying to, and it's like, no, maybe they're just trying to understand, maybe they're just coming from a place of not knowing. Mm-hmm. And it is hard. Like thinking about like me as a CrossFit coach, when someone comes in and they don't know, I treat each person like myself. Like when I started working out, I never worked out before. When I started CrossFit, I'd never been that person that was like exercise, that I thought you had to be athletic to be athletic. I didn't know that you could kind of like become it. But I think that too many people are they're probably just like burnt out on it. Like I'm tired of being asked the same question over and over and over and over and over. And then maybe they're just exploding out of like redundancy. You know what I mean? Like, like when I run a class and someone's like, well, hey, what's a power clean? And I'm like, it's this. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. And then after I've already explained it, someone asks me, and like I explained to the whole class, someone asks me personally, and then someone else asks me personally, someone else. And I'm like, oh my God, like, do you guys not listen? But I have to take a step back and realize like, okay, cool. Maybe they just weren't paying attention or something. But I think you're right. Like it's just too many people like are quick to judge. Too many people are quick to be like, oh, this person's just ignorant. This person is just dumb. This person, they're trying to put us down, or they're trying to create, whatever. So I think you're right about that. It's like, they're too quick to make assumptions on little things. Maybe this person was just ignorant to the situation and they didn't know, and they're genuinely just wanting to know.
Right. And of course, we're talking in the context of a pandemic where we're not actually able to speak face to face.
Right.
Except for over Zoom. And over Zoom is only so good too.
Right.
Because I think what you and I love is the one-on-one conversations, that it's kind of like the metaphorical coffee shop conversation. Like, yes, you and I would love to just sit in a coffee shop, get a drink, and chat for 5 hours about whatever comes up. It's
Yes.
like a phenomenal activity. I've done that many times before with
Yeah.
people.
It's because the energy you get from someone, like you can feel their energy of like when they're engaged and they're looking at you in the eyes and they're like excited, and you can feel the energy when they've lost interest and they're just kind of fading off. And it's like, oh, okay, well, cool. Like you can't get that over Zoom. Like I'm
No.
watching your facial expressions, trying to like read you and understand, but it's not the same. I can't see your body language. I can't see, what's going on. But yeah, I agree with you. It's just there's so much disconnect.
Yeah, but the point is that everything that you and I are talking about is often just over social media
Yep.
between total strangers.
Yep. Through a
And there's
screen.
that massive block there, that massive distance. So people can
Right.
say whatever they want because they're protected.
Right.
They don't have to be raw and honest and
Yeah.
vulnerable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. And I've had these conversations with people later. Like I've seen them make a post about, like oh they have it, so they've always had it or they've always had help. And I see it. I'm like, hey, I see them the next day. I'm like, hey, about your post, let's have a fucking conversation. It's like, oh, I want to talk to you. Let's talk. So it's like, and they're like, oh, I didn't realize, or oh, I didn't know. And I'm like, yeah, maybe next time think about it that way as opposed to assuming. So I typically, if I can have that conversation, or I'll type up a whole comment and then delete it all. I'm like, yeah, it's not worth it because it's not.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll send a DM to people
yeah,
instead of posting a comment on the actual post.
yeah, because it makes
Yeah.
such a massive difference. Because now you feel like you're having a conversation with that person, as opposed to like call out culture. Like I'm calling you out for being an idiot, and everybody's gonna see and
Mhm.
like my comment and laugh at you, and fingers are pointed at you. It's like no, I'm having a conversation with you because I want to talk to you. I don't want to be another comment.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Absolutely.
yeah,
Uh-huh. And I think I'm imagining that this is similar to you too, in the sense that you, if you see somebody's comment, you want to know where it came from too.
yeah.
Even if you feel like you were kind of insulted or disrespected by it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you and I are probably similar in the sense that it takes a while for us to get like really insulted. Like it
Yeah.
has to take something really targeted.
It takes a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And so then if somebody presents something that's the slightest bit like irksome, kind of like,
Mm-hmm.
what was that about? We still just want to have that conversation and learn.
Yep. Yep. Like I got into I about once a year I get into CrossFit fights with people that are like, oh, CrossFit's stupid, or oh, whatever. About once a year I'll dive down and go that route. But I got in this probably about a month ago with a buddy of mine. He does bodybuilding. He's an acquaintance of mine from back home, and he's always bashed it. Him and his buddy have always bashed it, always talk crap about it. They're like they're cheating pull-ups and all the typical
Sure.
things.
Yeah.
So I was going back and forth with them, back and forth, and I finally was like, and there was no response. Period. After I said this, I said, look, I respect what you're doing for fitness. Everyone has their own things that they like: Zumba, bodybuilding, running, mountain climbing, mountain biking, rock climbing, CrossFit, all these things, spin. And I listed all these things. I said, everybody has their own things that they enjoy and love. What I don't, and I said, I respect all of those. If you come into my gym and you try out a CrossFit and you don't like it, cool. That's not for you. CrossFit is for everyone, but not everyone is for CrossFit. And I said this, and I was like, so what is your biggest problem with CrossFit? Because I have no issues with what you're doing, and I will never talk down on what you're doing. And there's been zero response from that.
Uh-huh.
None. And I'm like, guys, like, let's just have a conversation instead of being like, oh, you're stupid and you do this and I think it's dumb. It's like, no, I just do something different than you. And I'm not saying what you're doing is bad. I'm not saying what I'm doing is the end all be all and what is correct. I just have a different opinion on what I enjoy. Just like some people like Chinese food, some people hate Chinese food. That doesn't make either one right or wrong. That's an opinion of what they like. You know what I mean? So it's like anytime you kind of throw out that rational conversation at people, it just shuts down the conversation because I think they realize like, oh, yeah, maybe I was being a little dumb. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
like, oh,
Well,
okay.
it's like what I was saying before about talking to a kid in a mental health setting, that like if you just call it out like that and use logic, but also just call it out to them and being like, okay, this is what's happening right now. This is what
Right.
you just said. This is how I'm reacting, blah, blah, blah. It's hard for them to argue.
Yeah.
It's hard for them to uphold whatever argument that they were trying to uphold, because now
Right.
you've actually gone to like the source of the issue.
Yeah. That, and you've shown that you're a person.
Yeah.
Like, hey,
Imagine that.
yeah, it kind of hurt my feelings. Like, let's talk about it. Like help me change my mind. Like, what's in your mind? Because I remember I had a conversation with the same gentleman before I moved here. It was like, I was like, what's your problem with CrossFit? Why do you hate on it so much? And he's like, well, you guys do those flying around pull-ups. He's like, you can't even do strict pull-ups. I said, no, we do those, and I can do them. And he's very ego. He's like, in a bad way kind of person. And I was like, I'll do as much as you can. I promise. He's like, no, you can't. And I was like, I promise I can. And it was like, I wasn't trying to be a dick. I wasn't trying to like ego him. It was just kind of like, look, I'm a person and here's my likes. You're a person. I see your likes. Cool. Let's move on, because there's no reason.
Let's do a pull-up competition.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So I was like, how about I'll work out with you one day and you work out with me one day and you'll see. So I did. I worked out with him. And he was like, oh, okay, cool. You can actually do more than I thought. I said, yes. He goes, well, I don't like it that you teach, new people snatches and the clean and jerks. Like, why does some 80-year-old lady need to be able? And I'm like, and I give him my examples of why. And I'm like, you're right. And if they come in and they're like, I hate this, I don't like doing it, guess how many I make them do? None. It's because it's their class, their hour. I don't care. What I do isn't indicative to what they need to do. But I feel like what I do can help them in the fastest way to what I believe, and help them in ways that I've seen positive reinforcement, but I've seen positive ways that you've trained people. I just don't find what you do fun. I find that boring. So I'm not going to be doing that. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Move on. Let's have another conversation.
Yep.
But I feel like that gets missed so much, that if you have a different opinion than me, you're wrong and everything, you need to die. It's like, yeah. Wow. Like, it's okay that I like green and you like blue. It's okay that I like hamburgers and you like steaks. It's okay that you're vegan and I'm not. Like, it's okay. Like, if more people can have those acceptances that people are different, the better off I think we'll be. And if someone truly has an opinion that's different than yours that you want to change it in logic, like you said. And I don't necessarily mean it in I'm smarter, you're dumber, and here's the reasons why. I mean it in like here's the reasons why I think the way I think. Tell me the reasons why you think the way you think. Okay. Well, I don't want to change the way I think. Okay, that's fine. Don't. We just want to have that conversation anymore. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah. Yes, you do.
Yeah. I know. I noticed as soon as I said that, I was like, I've been ending every statement with, I don't know. But,
you do. Yeah.
And I think I think the reason why that comes from like a little bit of insecurity, and then also of like, I don't want to feel like I sound like I know all.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because
of course. Well, and everything that you just said makes total sense. And it makes sense that you're also conscious of not coming across as like so egotistical, because that's what we're talking about.
Right.
But I would argue that someone that you're talking about who can't accept the difference of opinion, that person also can't accept that they might be the only one with their opinion.
Right. And that's where they find this echo chamber.
Yeah, exactly. And they're just not okay with that, that sense of feeling alone in their own opinion. Right. And like owning their own opinion. So that's why they have to try to enlist you in it. And you're just like, well, no, that's not what I believe. But they're like, no, please.
Yeah.
Like their inner child. Yeah. Their inner child is like, please just agree with me.
Yeah. I need validation that I'm not an idiot, or I know what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Switching gears just a little bit, and kind of going back to your love and your need for growth and learning, how much you love that. Mm-hmm. The thing with the CrossFit world that's interesting, or just kind of the gym world in general, the fitness class world in general as a career, is that it's the same thing all the time. Obviously, CrossFit workouts are different all the time. There's freedom and variability in that, but schedule-wise, routine-wise, sometimes diet-wise, for people like yourself and the coaches and the competitive athletes, a lot of it's very routine and it's extremely repetitive, like you were just saying about the power cleans. Mm-hmm. So how do you because of the fact that your job is naturally extremely repetitive all the time, unless you have new members coming in every day to give you some of that stimulation,
Hmm.
how do you maintain the sense of making progress,
I struggle.
growing?
I struggle pretty hard. I'm not gonna lie,
Okay.
because I am so used to growth. Like I went in high school, like I played video games, skateboarded, rollerbladed, was in band, was in show choir, was in speech and drama. So I was in acting, and then when I went to college, I was obviously still in music. That was kind of like my like home base. But like I went out with friends, and I learned like the cheerleading aspect. I would play ultimate frisbee on certain nights, and like I was always constantly changing and always constantly doing something, but always kind of like a home base is what I had. I'd say with the fitness stuff of like everything being routine, like you said, um, I feel like for me for growth, I need it constantly. I need something new, and I do get to points in my head where I'm like, oh God, I'm doing this again. All right, cool. I'll get up tomorrow. Like tomorrow, like by Thursdays is my early day. I get up at 5 a.m. and I go teach all of our morning classes. So what I've been doing the last 3 weeks is getting up at 4 a.m. and going and working out before our morning class. And it's helped break up the monotony of get up, brush my teeth half asleep, put in my contacts, go to class, go through the motions of waking up and, drinking my coffee. And it's helped break up that monotony. For me personally, and I do get in routine with teaching people. And I'm like, I tell Brett all the time, I'm like, I have not been coaching very well lately. And she's like, no, you have. And I'm like, no, to my standards, I haven't, because I've found that routine. I've taught this class 3 other times. I'm going to get asked the same questions. I'm going to, so it is difficult to not, especially coming from a person that like loves growth, like you said, that loves learning, that wants to constantly be changing. And I find myself, I think that I found kind of the magic concoction that makes me me, and that's focus on three things in my life, and in the sense of like hobbies, and try to put everything you can into those three too, whatever. Right now I've just recently gotten into bow hunting. So I've been shooting my bow like every day, like learning little tweaks here and there. I bought a Jeep, which I knew nothing about, and I learned everything about it I could, and like I get obsessive. I get obsessive about things, but I figured if I kind of put a little bit of water in each cup, like 2 or 3 cups, so I can keep myself from getting obsessive about one thing and then totally spinning my tires in that one thing and then being like, I'm done with this, move on. I'm done with this, move on. So for me personally, it is hard because I have become routine. I have found my routine, and I like it. I love it. But after a month or two, it's like, well, I got to change, got to do something, got to figure out something different. But with CrossFit, the reason why I've stuck with it for so long is I'm almost 10 years in. Next year will be 10 years. Is you have cardio, you have gymnastics, you have weightlifting, and you have a mixture of all three. You have a mixture of two. You have one specifically, and in each of those things, there's many like different ways of getting better at that. Like cardio, you have running, rowing, biking, skiing, burpees. You have like obviously you put burpees in gymnastics, but other way it's like breathing heavy. And then like if we mix all three, what does your cardio look like? So for me, it's like I can get good at one thing and then learn to get good at another, and then like, okay, cool, I'm gonna change my focus to this. And then so with CrossFit, I feel like for someone like me that's kind of like bouncing all over the places, I'm able to specifically lean into certain things throughout the year and not get tired. Like, or when I do get tired or burnt out on it, I'll lean into another or focus here, focus there. That makes it more fun because I can keep focusing on something different each time. And when I do get burned out, I could be like, okay, so if I'm losing focus, I'm losing strength, I'm losing cardio, I'm losing blah, blah, blah. What is going on? Is it my sleep? Okay, yeah, my sleep has been crap. Let's focus on that. Is it my eating? Yeah, I have been slacking. I haven't been eating as much. I need to focus on that. For me, like the health sphere is so big that there's like little chunks of it that I can focus on so much on. Then if I'm like, okay, this health sphere is seriously starting to like I'm getting tired of it. Okay, I'm going to shoot my bow more. I'm going to focus on that, or I'm going to go work on my Jeep, or I'm going to go, like we're about to remodel our bathrooms. Cool. I'm going to watch some YouTube videos on that. It's just like, for me personally, like I can still find growth in other areas without feeling like I'm just like pinholed into one thing. Like, this is who I am. This is what I am. And I think that kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier is I think the top 1% of people in what they do are able to shut everything else out and only focus on that. And yeah, they have their off days. Yeah, people have their days. They don't want to go do whatever. But for the most part, they're 98% focused on it throughout the year. So I think that that's why I'm able to kind of like focus and bounce and be so able to talk to so many people and have so many conversations with people, is because I don't have to I know that I can bounce around to other things, because I can't focus on one thing and be able to set my sights on it forever.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Okay. There's a lot there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But that's phenomenal awareness that you have, just to know that like you can't just set your sights on one thing and stick with that one thing, or, right. And like you have that flexibility to change it up. But am I hearing you right that sort of, if you were to like package this up into, the Madison Perkins method of keeping life interesting, are you saying that you only focus on those 2 to 3 kind of like hobbies or interests, or just like focal points, purely just to like, even though they're really micro things, like maybe adjusting your sleep or adjusting your food or learning all about your Jeep or whatever it is, it's just something to add that little dash of spice to your
week? I think that, and two, is to distract me, to kind of like I said, I get really obsessive about things. Like when I get an interest in something, I get super obsessive until I exhaust that. So like the bow, I was super obsessive for about 2 weeks, to the point where I was like, I got to get one. And I found I can give plasma and get money for plasma. So I was like, I'll just start giving plasma and I'll just make it up for that. So I have been. So I got the bow now. Like, it's the honeymoon phase is kind of wore off. So I'm still out there shooting, but I'm not like every day talking to every person about it. I think it's just a way for me to kind of distract myself, to keep myself from getting too obsessive. And I think that it kind of stems from where I grew up. Whenever someone is really good at something, people would say, yeah, but that's all he got. Yeah, but that's all he do. Yeah, but that's that. So in the back of my mind, like it's always kind of there, of like the negative concept of being really good at one thing, because whenever people would obsess over things back home, like basketball or baseball or football or any of those things, people are like, back in my day, it's because that's what it was. It was like, listen, kid, when you graduate, this is all you got right now. When you graduate, you need to move on. You need to figure out something, So I think that and then two, I think people back home would see someone really good at something, and they don't want to put in the work it takes to be good at that one thing. So for them, it's real easy to brush that off as like, yeah, but that's all he got, or yeah, that's all I care about. So it's in the back of my mind, I'm like, I don't want to be obsessive about this one thing, because it's bad, because it's negative. Like, if I am solely focused on this one thing, what else do I got? Like, people are going to look at me and be like, oh, that person is that thing. Mm-hmm. And like I said earlier, I don't want to be tied into, did you hear my dog? Marley. She's sleeping. Here she starts barking. But like, I think that kind of plays a role into, that's all you think about. That's all you care about. And I'm like, oh, but it's not like, but I do enjoy what I'm doing. So it's like, what is the problem with letting me do this? Like, I'm having fun. I'm a happier person. Like, I'm not bringing you into this. I'm not making it negative. So what's the problem? So I think for me, putting kind of like a little bit of water in like 3 different cups kind of helps me personally know it's okay. Like, okay, cool. Focus on these different things. Other people won't look at you like, oh, you're only doing this one thing, or that's all you are. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It keeps you making sure that you don't settle, but also you're not viewed as that one trick pony.
Right. And I think that kind of causes the issue with that top 1% conversation we're having with earlier. Mm-hmm. I think for you and I do things and want to be the best I can, and also want to be the best at it. I hate losing. So it's like, I don't want someone to be better than me because I didn't prepare and I didn't try. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want someone to be better than me because I was just kind of like gave up halfway through all the way here. And then whenever they beat me or do better than me, I'm like, whatever. That's all I care about. It's like, I don't want to be that person. So it is hard for that because I want to be way better. I want to be in that top 1%. I want people to look at me and go, that person was really good at this. But it's like a constant battle.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And this is good because this leads me into kind of the last topic before we close it up, which is motivation. Because you know the well, let me backtrack. I work with so many people who are trying to figure out what they want to do with their lives and their careers, in particular. And what you were just talking about, the reason I asked more about it is because that's super helpful for those people in my audience, because they might be in a job they hate, but they're trying to make sure that there's areas of their life that they feel good about. They feel like they're making progress. They feel like they can obsess over and grow into different things, try different things, have that confidence. But I have found that motivation is so totally different for everybody. And your motivation, it's amazing, like, because you just described how your motivation is so much more catered to not being a one-trick pony, having this mindset of like, you can keep progressing. You can, like your mom told you, if you fail at this thing, whatever, go try another thing. It doesn't mean that you had to marry yourself to that one thing. And so on top of that, and because of the fact that in the fitness world, motivation is a huge element to anybody achieving any goals ever.
Yeah.
Have you noticed in your 10 years of working in the industry patterns of like what motivates the people that come into your gym? Or is it truly just like completely across the board that you have to figure out for your own damn self what your motivation actually is and looks like?
Motivation's such a hard thing. Just like you said, there's a reason why you brought it up. It's such a hard concept to kind of grasp, because I know people that get motivated by so many different things. And like, it is like, I know people that are like, hey, I just need you to stay on me. Text me every day just so I'll show up. And it's like, well, okay. Like, so why are you here? Why are you doing what you're doing? What are the reasons? So I think that if people kind of come down to that why, they're able to understand. I know I hate that question. Like, what's your why? It's like, oh, okay, cool. We're going to this again, because I've been asked that previous times and stuff. And it's not a bad question. It legitimately is a good question, but I think it's just been beat over the head too many times. I think
you mean the question of what is their why?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think that one's just been beat over people's heads too much. Like, figure out your why. It's like, what are you passionate about, and focus on that, and you'll never work a day in your life. And it's like, yes and no. Like I love my job and I am very passionate about what I do. But some days I'm like, I don't want to go. I don't want to do it. And it's just because we all get that way. We all have those days. And it sucks. And I hate hearing this. Like, it really irritates me. You're going to have bad days that make the good days good. You're going to have those bad days that make your good days great. You have to have the bad with the good, but for like motivation in this, like, and like I said earlier when I was talking about like, yelling at someone, like what motivates you as a person versus this person versus that person, and trying to find that is key. And I understand that that's the kind of the question is what helps people find that. I understand that that's the hard part, but you have to like legitimately like dig in. Like, if you're working out, why are you working out? What is your reasoning? For me, it's because I want to be the best that I can be at working out. And I know it's like, okay, cool, you're going in there and you rode really fast, whatever. But it's like, no, I gave it my all, and I legitimately want to be the best person that I can be at X. And I think that's why people get so tied up in their life and get so sad, is because it's like, this is what I put all of my eggs in, and I failed. And that's who I wanted to be, was that person. And I wanted to be the best at that, and I failed. And I think that's why so many people lose motivation and lose or get depressed or stuff like that, is because when they do see failure, they see it as they are a failure. not this is just a bump in the road, or this is a learning experience, or any of those things. Because I do get sad and I do get depressed whenever I do hit these bumps and walls. But I also look at it too as like, okay, cool, it's just a bump in the road. Got to keep moving forward. And I think that comes with like my growing up. I didn't have the best childhood in the sense of like the things that I saw, the things that I had to go through. But I always knew that tomorrow would be another day. I know that people say treat today like you'll never have another tomorrow, but I always looked at tomorrow will always be another day. Mm. Whatever scenario or situation you're in will always end. It could end when you die, which sucks, or it could end whenever it ends. You know what I mean? Like when I get my tattoos, I think of it that way. Listen, this will be over. It sucks now and it hurts, but if I dig through it and push through it, it will be over. It will end. So that kind of motivates me to keep pushing through and to keep digging through whatever I'm doing, because I know that it will be over. And whatever shit scenario you're in, whatever it happens, like if you're in a job that you hate, or if you're in a relationship that you hate, know that it will end if you allow it to end. If you keep pushing through in the sense of like, I'm just going to keep doing this, like what's the definition of an insanity, right? Keep repeating the same thing, expecting different results. It's like you have to recognize that this is what is causing you discomfort in your life and try to figure out ways to change it. And I am constantly surrounded by people that don't understand that concept. And it blows my mind. And it can be, for me looking at it the way I do, it can be good. For me looking at it can be bad. Good is because you know that whatever's going on, you can make a change and you can make things better. Bad could be you make a change too quick and you don't suffer through in order to get to the light at the end of the tunnel. Because instead of being like, I want this to change because I hate it, I'm going to move on. It's like, no, like this is the suffering you need to go through in order to make this better. Like running a business and you're about to close your doors because you're paying out of pocket to your employees and stuff like that. And you're like, God, like this sucks. Like I hate it. I'm stressed. I don't sleep well, but it's like, look, there's light at the end of the tunnel. Give it X amount of time. If nothing changes, make a change. And to be able to have that definitive answer that's the hard part. And that's the sucky part. You wish that you could play through it, hit rewind and be like, that was dumb. Go the other way, you know? But like for motivation sense of like, for me personally, like I kick my own ass every day in the gym. I have been working out consistently for 10 years. The most amount of time I've taken off has been like 3 days. And people are like, you know, they take months off, weeks off, you know, days off, years off, and they get back into it. The most I've taken off, I think, is 3 or 4 days of like completely no exercise or nothing. And I am constantly drilling myself in the floor. And when I don't see progress or when I don't see something that I can like push I'm just like, what's the point, man? Like, what am I doing this for? Like, I am constantly trying. That's when I have to take a step back and go, okay, you're trying your hardest, but what are you not trying your hardest at? What factors are playing in this role that is making you not as successful as you could be? And that could be business, that could be financially, that could be relationship, that can be anything. Like, what are you doing that is not making this 100% of what it could be? You know, like I think about that with my relationship with my wife. Like my mom was married 3 times. My grandma, I think, was married 5 or 6. So it's like I was constantly surrounded by divorce and breakup, like growing up. So it's like I want to marry my wife, and I married her, and I want to be with her for the rest of my life. And I want to have a happy relationship. I don't want to be 10 years, 20 years down the road and be like, God, I hate this woman. Here we go again. You know, I don't want that. And don't get me wrong, like all relationships have their good and bad, as you know. Everybody knows, like we all go through our fights. We all have our issues. But what are you doing to drop your wall enough to be like, okay, so how can I create change in this to keep this from happening? Or if it does happen, I know how to get out of this scenario as quickly as possible. And I mean that in all aspects. Like if you hate your job and you're depressed and you're like, okay, so what can I change today that is going to make the biggest difference tomorrow? Because tomorrow is going to be here no matter what. Tomorrow is going to happen and an hour is going to happen. You know, granted, like asteroid doesn't hit the earth or whatever. But it's like, if you plan that tomorrow is going to happen in the sense of like, I am going to make change today to something that's going to affect tomorrow, then cool. But if you're like, tomorrow's going to be another day, I'll just chalk this up with, oh, well, then to me, you're just spinning your tires. That's why you're spinning your tires. That's why you're not able to have motivation. That's not why, because my motivation is, okay, where did I mess up? Let's make a change tomorrow. Yesterday you said tomorrow,
Yeah.
like that whole thing. So it's like, okay, I'm going to make this happen. And that's kind of what's helped motivate me in getting to where I am today is, what can I change myself to make tomorrow better? And I mean, and there's still stuff that I wish that I would change about myself and recognize and be better at, but it is what it is.
Of course. And we're all human.
Right.
But
right.
what I love about what you're sharing though, is like, it's similar to a lot of frameworks that I create for my clients and for my content that I share and teach, in that you're saying, identify what's lacking in the sense of like, what's missing, just like what is, but not like what's missing about you as a person, just what's missing about like what you want out of the activity you're doing or the job that you have.
Yes.
Because I love the example you had of like, you're giving your all in the workout, but you're like, okay, what area of my life is there something missing?
Right.
Maybe it's not working out today. Like, okay, so then where do I want to make progress then? Is it in my marriage? Is it in my food? Is it whatever it is?
Right.
But then that second question is the most crucial one, because you can still ask that question and then not do anything about it. So the second question that's so crucial is, okay, what change do I want to make? So you brought up a great point that so many people don't like the discomfort
of change,
of making a change.
Yes.
And you phrased it in a great way, because you phrased it like they don't have the desire for the discomfort.
Yes.
They don't have the desire for enjoying the discomfort of change.
Yeah. Because no one does. No one likes the desire of change. No one likes that uncomfortable. No one. You love the warmth of your bed when you first wake up and you don't want to get out of bed. It's so nice. You don't want to move. Everybody loves that. I don't care who they are. They get up at 3 a.m. and go run in the cold. They love that warmth.
Yeah, my girlfriend.
You're right.
It's ridiculous.
Oh, weird.
Who is she?
Who are you? But no, it's you have to desire the change, the outcome, more than the current state that you're in. Because if you truly want a change, if you truly want to change and you truly want that outcome to happen, you're going to make it happen. If I say to you, Taylor, I'm not going to give you any food for the rest of your life, you're going to be like, well, okay, let's figure out how I'm going to live. I'm going to go find some food. You know what I mean? It's like, it's literally, to me, it's that simple. If you truly, truly, truly want to make a change, you will figure out how to do that, as long as you're able to accept that it's going to be uncomfortable and learning and trying to grow.
Yes.
Because it is. It sucks looking stupid. It sucks being the person that's like, well, that guy's an idiot. Like, oh, that guy's new. It sucks being that person. But everybody starts that way. Mm-hmm. I don't care who you are. Everybody starts that way in some form, shape, or fashion.
It's so true. And I agree with that so intensely, because people I talk to and a lot of my clients, they think that it's more so they think it's some kind of motivation issue, but oftentimes it's a confidence issue in their ability to problem solve.
Yeah.
Because like, maybe they want that change. Maybe they want to get better at whatever it is, but the discomfort comes in the problem solving. And they don't think they're resourceful enough to figure it out. So they never even start.
Or let's say that they're not resourceful enough. They're too scared to ask.
Exactly.
They're too scared to ask someone who has done it, someone who's been there, someone who understands. Like, I have wasted so much time doing stuff on my own that I've like, not anymore. I'm just going to go ask this person.
Totally.
So, and that kind of comes to the ego thing. It's like you have a standard in your head to where it's like, I want everyone to view me as X. Like, this standard is here. My ego is like, I want people to hold me here. Mm-hmm. But as soon as I have to ask and I drop my ego and I have to ask, hey, I'm new, I don't know how to do this. That's whenever people are like, oh, I'm scared. Because I've been there and I've been like, hey, I'm new to this. Can you please help me? And they're like, you're an idiot. And I'm like, cool. Well, you can go F yourself. So I'm going to move on. You know what I mean? So, and that's why people are so scared, is because you have people who take bow hunting, for instance. I went to a shop here in Salt Lake City to get something adjusted on my bow. And I told the guy, I was like, hey, I'm 3 weeks into this. I'm brand new. I'm still learning. Can you help me? And the guy treated me like an idiot. Like he was just like, well, I don't know. What do you want me to do? And I'm like, how? And I literally asked him, oh, hey, by the way, how long you been doing this? And he was like, 30 plus years. And I was like, cool. I'm 3 weeks in, just so you know. And he was just like, and I could see the light bulb go off in his head that I'm like, yeah, you're being a dick. Like, stop. And it's like too many people are like that, and it scares other people to ask for help. And to remember, like you said, the confidence in yourself that you can do this. I don't care what it is. You can do this. You just can't right now because you're learning and you're brand new. Take the steps, the times to learn, and you can do this 100%. And I try to use my background as like the music person, the nerdy white kid that never did anything, to like, now you're, like you said earlier, like you're an athlete. And I'm like, nah, I'm not. But like I use that because it's like, I literally thought you had to be athletic to be athletic. I thought you had to be in shape to be in shape. I thought you had to already be ripped with abs in order to be ripped with abs. Yeah. No, that's not the case. But you know, but that applies to so many different ways of life.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my God, there's so much that we could go into on that. But I completely agree. And it's that discomfort of just figuring it out, or that problem solving.
Yeah.
And I like the way that you worded it just now. Like, you're not good at that thing yet.
Yeah.
And so stop thinking about being good at that thing. Instead, refocus your attention and motivation on learning about that thing.
Yeah.
Because like with me owning my own company, I wonder if this is the case with you with the gym, but with me, with my own company, I have total creative freedom. I can do whatever the hell I want with my business, and nobody can tell me not to. Right. And so I'm coming up with ideas all day long. 99% of them are shit. Right? 99% of them I'll never do. But my imagination is still just coming up with ideas.
Right.
And so as soon as I latch onto one, or one sticks around, I'll be like, okay, well, there are 12 things related to this idea that I don't know how to do. And so at this point, then it's like, before I even commit to the idea, I'm like, all right, who do I know who could possibly shed light on this?
Yeah.
And if nobody can, or if some people do, and there's still some things I need to know, I'll just go to Google or whatever, purely just to do research.
Right.
And that took me a long time to figure out, because I wanted to be good at things too. Like growing up, like I didn't like being bad at things.
Right.
Kind of like you. So people need to get in that habit of just recognizing that you're not going to be good at the thing in an hour. You might be able to figure out overnight, whatever it is, but you need to learn about it first.
Right. Right. And thinking about it, I was thinking about when you were talking, like it took you a little while, or like you were saying, like if you have this thing that you want to do and you have these 12 other things, you reach out to someone. You typically, because if someone reaches out to you and I'm like, hey, Taylor, I've never done this. Can you help me? Sure. Let me help you out. That's your Southern hospitality. That's who you are as a person. Let me help you. And so we automatically assume that other people will be the same. But if you grow up in a way that is not the norm, you're right, that is not the norm, then you're terrified to ask for help. Because if someone asks you for help, like, no, I'm not helping you, because that's how you were raised. That's how you're brought up. That's how the people were around you. So you just automatically assume that everybody else is going to be that way.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it can totally be a territorial, geographical, cultural kind of thing. So know your audience, obviously.
Right.
But I think the point that we're making with all of this is that motivation is extremely nuanced, and you've shared ways that people can structure their motivation, figure out where the motivation actually is, instead of just thinking, I need to become good at that big thing over there.
It's like, why? Why do you need to be good at that one thing?
Yeah.
Because it makes you a better person? Is it because it brings value to your life in XYZ? You know, it's like yes.
Yes. Bingo. Period. Yeah. And I love this, because this is a perfect segue into my last topic, which I love to ask every single guest I have on the show, which is about the good life. And the context for this, for anybody who hasn't heard this segment of the show before, is that my godfather, who is a very acclaimed pediatrician, he would host other doctors, and he would have other like med students come into his home and have these little events where these doctors would speak and blah blah blah. But one doctor one time, when students were asking all about technical things about how to deal with patients and how to handle the actual medical decisions and all that kind of thing, the doctor stopped everybody and said, everybody just take a second and ask yourself what your definition of a good life is. Not the good life, not like the white picket fence American dream kind of idealized life, but just a good life, and use that as your barometer. Because if you're in a work environment like you and I are, where we care about other people, care about their well-being, then our definition of a good life is going to dictate and direct a lot of our conversations with people. And so for you, now that we've talked about your everything in life, basically, and motivation, what is your definition of a good life?
It's such a big question just because there's so many things that change in life. But I think for a good life for me personally, I think is thinking about my wife, my job, my friends, all these different things. Like, I would love for my life to be where, because growing up, I grew up relatively poor, and like, you know, I didn't get the best clothing. I didn't have new clothes every, you know, whatever. So I think for me is not having to think about finances in order to bring happiness, not having to worry about finances in order to not bring depression. You know what I mean? Like, to where it's like, oh, we can't pay this bill, or we can't pay that, or, you know, I can't buy this or I can't buy that. And I don't mean that in the sense of like, oh, I want a boat, so I'm going to go buy a boat. I don't mean that. I just mean like everyday stuff. Like, you know, can I pay my gas bill? Can I put gas in my vehicle? Can I go buy groceries for the week? Can I, you know, basic stuff. For me to have a good life, I think that I would need for all of that to be my base level. Like, that's underneath. I don't have to think about any of those things. My relationship with my wife, we have our ups and downs, but we have more ups than downs. I'm not thinking about other people. I'm not thinking about trying to replace or put in place holes or pitfalls that I feel like in my relationship. Like, I don't want that to be something I'm looking for external anything. I want it to come from that. If there's certain relationship things I want, it should come from the person I want it to be with. Friendship things, like, I have natural friends that if I text you, Taylor, in 6 months, hey dude, what's up? And we just pick up right where we left off. You know, that's how me and my best friend growing up, like, we have a texting thread that we've been texting for years now. And it's like, we have conversations that span months, and it's like, because neither one of us look at it like, oh, you haven't texted me or you didn't respond back. Like, I love that about my best friend growing up, because we have such a good connection that life happens. He's busy, I'm busy, or I forgot to freaking text him and he forgot to text me. It happens. You know, I'm not doing it to be mean or nothing like that. Like, I would love to have all my friends and friendships to be that way, to where it's natural, where, you know, so like, my good life is going to be to have, like, my finances are in place where I don't have to stress over little things. Like, obviously there's big things that we can talk about, but the relationship, like, we have our ups and downs, but mainly more ups than downs. And I don't have to stress that I'm not bringing my all to the table, so that my wife is going to go somewhere else, and vice versa. Like, she's going to put everything she can into this. I'm constantly telling her, thank you for loving me, because it's a lot into a person to love someone and to truly let their wall down. Like, I'm always like, thank you for loving me. And she's like, I don't know why you say that, you know, but I'm like, I truly mean it. And I want that to be a thing. And then for my work and business to be something to where the same thing, relationships, I have more ups and downs. I have more days that I'm excited to go in than I do the days that I don't. The job thing is harder, just because if you are a garbage man, or you flip burgers for a living, or you do any of these jobs that are deemed beneath people, beneath real jobs, and that's way harder to grasp, because, like, I remember working as a burger flipper with someone, this lady, she was in her 50s, and they were like, oh, she's 55 years old and she's still flipping patties. Who gives a shit? Like, is she having a great life? Does she love what she does? Does she enjoy it? awesome. Like, why are you raining on her parade because she's in her 50s flipping patties?
Yeah,
This
more power
65,
to her.
yeah, right. This 65-year-old lady is a server. So maybe she just enjoys waiting tables and talking to people. Like, for me, it's like I want to enjoy my job in the sense of like when I go in, I'm helping someone. And that's just I loved and hate. I love and help. I love helping people, no matter what it is. I'm flipping patties. I give you a burger. I put food in your belly. Cool. I helped you. You know what I mean? Like I'm dealing blackjack. You know, I took all your money, but you had a great experience. You know, it's like I give you. You know, you're up double. Like we're having a good time, and you're making money. You know, like now that I'm you know teaching people how to get their health in order. Like I said, their confidence lights up, their face lights up. Like they're talking to more people now. Like when they walk in, they say, "Hey, how's it going?" You know, and they're like, "Oh man, that person used to never talk." And I'm like, "Cool." It's because now they're growing and they're feeling better. Like for me to have a good life, I need those things. I don't need like I've looked around lately at all the stuff that I quote unquote own now, and I'm like, holy shit! Like this is the most amount of things I've ever owned in my life. You know, and I'm like, this is weird because I don't need possessions in order to be happy. For me personally, because I grew up without. I grew up without things. I've gone without. I've struggled. I've gone through my childhood of being like, well, I'm wearing the same shoes that I've wore for the last 4 years, and I literally don't have a rubber sole. It is just the cloth below my heel to the cold floor that's 28 degrees outside, and this is what I have to wear until I can get some new shoes. I've gone through that, and that has nothing to do with my mom. It has nothing to do with my upbringing. It's just what I've gone through, and it's my mom was doing her best. My grandparents are doing their best, but I've gone with those things to realize that, hey, do you want to go play N64 at your friends? Yeah, let's go. And I'll run over there in my hand-me-down shoes and jacket and stuff. I don't care. Like, for me to have a good life, I want to end each day with a smile because something happened that day that made me smile. Whether it be my wife, whether it be my home, whether it be my work, whether it be some interaction that I had with someone. I just want to be able to smile and know that I gave it my all and I actually had a good time. Like for me personally, that's a good life because I feel like possessions, I feel like those things create a status for you, and status does not bring happiness because there's always someone better than you. There's, like I said, it goes all
Yep,
the way back to
preach.
that goes all the way back to that 1% talk. There is always someone that is better than you, always someone that has more money than you, always someone that has the better, newer thing than you. So if you're truly setting your sights on these things to bring you happiness, you're always going to have a letdown because you're never going to be the best person. Big fish, little pond. There's always a pond with a bigger fish. And it's like, if you truly set your sights on that as bringing happiness, then you're never going to be happy. So you have to settle on things that are intangible, like your relationship. If you're single, figure out that what makes you happy as a person. Like, oh man, I love it when I get home by myself and I put on the TV and I got my popcorn or my whatever. Like I cook myself some spaghetti and I'm just going to watch Netflix for the next 3 hours. So people will be like, oh, that's lazy. You're just watching TV. Who gives a shit? You're having a good time. You got that smile on your face because you watched something funny, or like, man, I wasted that amount of time, but that was worth it. I enjoyed it. Like, but obviously, if it turns into every single day of like that's what brings you enjoyment is laziness, then it's like, okay, figure out how to make that, but make it more productive. You know what I mean? In the sense of like, when I sit down and watch TV, I'm going to type something up. I'm going to read a book. I'm going to, flick through, like put something mindless on that you can learn or grow in some way. Like, don't just settle into, oh, I can't wait to sit on my couch and not watch TV and drink a beer. It's like,
Yeah.
cool, that's good, but know what you're doing. Know the path that leads, because that's going to lead you to gaining weight, to joints hurting more. You know what I mean? It's like, for me personally, a good life is to know that my day, even if I spend, like sometimes I'll spend 8 hours watching TV with my wife. Like we will literally binge watch for 8 to 10 hours. Like it's very rare, but sometimes we will. And people are like, oh my God, that's all you did? I'm like, yeah, I enjoyed my time with my wife and we just sat there and watched TV.
Sometimes you need it.
It was
100%.
awesome. And I left that day with like, I could have cleaned the house. I could have washed the dogs. I could have, done X. I could have done this. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. Move on. Tomorrow's another day. Make that day better. I don't know. For me, that's personally what would make a good life.
I love that you just said, I don't know again. After you just like,
every time.
you just drilled that home. I love that.
Every time. It's because I have
That's
like
awesome.
6 other things in my head that I'm like, you could have said this. You could have said that. You know? And I love stories too. So the more stories I have, the better life I'll have. And I
Mhm.
do know. See what I did
There
there?
it is.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
cool thing is, like, even though you just shared a lot and that could sound like a complicated answer, it's really not. Like, you're talking, as we talked about earlier, it's just like this, it's like the simple things. You're
Mm-hmm.
not talking about anything over complex to have a good life. You're not talking about doing anything crazy or needing anything crazy to be happy. And so, and it plays to that openness, that flexibility, and that openness to just like, all right, what else could I do? Or what do I need right now? Or what would make me smile?
Right. Right.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Cool. Got any other
Amazing.
brain
Okay.
busters for me?
Oh,
Just kidding.
so many, of course,
Yeah.
but
Cool.
we literally will be on for 6 hours.
Yeah.
Keep
Right.
going.
Yeah. I agree.
So I'm going to cut you off
Cool.
right here.
I
Yeah.
had like 6 thoughts just in that I was like, nah, don't bring it up because we can keep going.
Yeah. You're like, make it stop, make it
Yeah.
stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Cool.
awesome. Well, then I'll just probably have to bring you back for round
Cool.
two at some point.
I'm down.
Sure.
Always down. Always down for learning. Always down to talk.
I love it. Well, thank you
Cool.
so much, Madison, for joining us on this.
You're
This
welcome,
is
bud.
huge. And I took some notes and I'm psyched to break this up even more and re-listen to it.
Cool.
I think it's gonna
All
be
right.
really
Well,
helpful.
let me know if you have any other questions about anything, and I'm always down to talk, as you know.
Will do. Is there
Cool.
anything that you want me to share with everybody to get a hold of you? Do you want me to just put the Ute CrossFit website on
Uh,
there?
yeah. I mean, I don't really post anything on my socials that are like motivational. It's just me lifting or me doing random stuff. But I mean, like you can follow me on any of those things if you want. It's just Coach Maddie P, Maddy, the letter P. But it's whatever. I mean, the biggest thing is just I don't know. Like I don't do anything motivational. I probably should. I don't know. But no, just do our website. Maybe follow our Instagram page because we try to motivate people as much as we can and show the average Joes and those things. Just that everybody can do it. Yeah. So if you want to share those 2
Awesome.
things, cool.
I'll do that.
All right,
That
buddy.
sounds good. Well, thank you so much, Madison.
You're welcome,
And
man.
everybody listening in the meantime, please take care, be kind to yourself, and we will talk to you all very soon.
For sure. See you later.